Luke for inviting me to be a part of this, and very pleased to be at Ember+Forge again. I really like it here. My first poem that I'm going to read tonight is out of my pink book called The Past is Calling, and that has a little bit of my domestic violence stuff and then moves forward through my life. I'm just going to do 2 of those that are not real heartbreaking, but and then I'll move on into the newer book called Broken Branches, and that's about my childhood and so on and the things that we went through. So the first one is called I Was 16. I was slender, 16, with long black hair, hanging out with giggly girls until there you were, divorced and 22, enticing with your talk of my womanly ways. Only I was enough for you. Only I could understand your desperate need for enough love. My heart went deaf to the rest, flying through life on the back of your bike, my heart and hands holding on tight, riding hill and dale through to our ceremony that would ultimately give you the power to own my every thought, over hill and dale, straight to hell. Then the next one in that book is called The Next Minute. How could you hold me and caress me like a child? And why you smile across the room, blow me a sweet kiss, and then in the next minute strike me with anger and hate? You tell me that no one could love me like you do, while you hold me down and spit out words of spite in the next minute. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go into the next book. Broken Branches is like a synopsis of my childhood, and then goes throughout the different stages in my life. And the first poem is called Broken Branches 1. I went to a writing conference with Marisa Mox Unger, the Erie County Poet Laureate, and there were different people there inspiring us in different ways to write. And the one asked us to pick up little pieces of nature. And I picked up this piece of branch and took it back to my table, and I was flipping it around, and I realized when I flipped it over, it was an L, and that's what started this whole thing. Broken Branches 1. Flaking bark breaks loose, punky smelling, pokey wood, damp, broken L. L for linger over that. Think about the growth and the breakdowns it took to take a breath after the death of the past. Fears that perfection wouldn't last, but it does. Branched out family tree for many beings needing branches and chances at normality, serenity, or simply the safety of family tree trunks, on which occasionally a chunk breaks off. Broken Branches 2. My mother, once the tree, strong and invincible, became the flexible willow. Wind forced her to accept all atrocities. Her polio, my father, her husband, my abuser. Fled, vanished, possibly vanquished. Suddenly, needing to provide for 2 baby birds just as storms stripped her bare, she was not spared. Humiliation, degradation, separation, and needing rehabilitation, while being sole custodial parent of 2 elementary-aged fledgling beings. A choice to send us away for the summer while she attempted to regain, reframe, and find her way. She shed old bark, started life anew, and delighted with reunited family. Minus the mister, minus my monster. Eventually, bark regrew, regained, renewed, and restructured. And Broken Branches 3 is more about when I thought I knew it all and took off on my own. The tiny half-grown birdling flew away in the wind and crashed in and out of nests strewn with litter. and then on to the next nest, an attempt to become at least half of what Mother Bird had made herself to be. Finally, flat on the ground, bound by bruises, tied up in handmade nooses, Tiny sought strong, straight trees for answers, trees with stepping stone bark, trees with branches that bent willowy to reach her, trees that beseeched her to stop trying to heal all the other broken-winged birds, to heal herself, to deal with all the self-inflicted wounds, to become in tune with what she wanted, needed, or was fleeing from. Tiny rested, nested, and clearly became aware of the view. While I was at that writing conference, it was in the fall, and outside the window there was this birch. This was at the art museum, and there was this birch fluttering. There were only a few leaves left on it, and that inspired me to do this haiku. I call it my triku because it's 3 haikus that all go together. Impending winter, dancing, fluttering, leaves letting go of the branch, seasonal dancer. Colorful tutu, green, red, and gold perfection, skipping to the ground. Bare, shivering branch, ice crunching brown debris beneath naked tree. And when you go through a life like I have, some people become angry and upset and live their life that way. I decided to go back to school very late in life and become a social worker. Thank you. And so I work at an agency where we help single working women with or without children to find safe, affordable housing. We help them get better jobs. We help them, become better parents, learn how to budget. And so this poem was inspired by the place that I work. My world of women. I work with women every day and for women, an office full of beauty, experience, and intelligence, where we astutely enable women who worked and worried themselves into poverty and homelessness, lives blown apart by divorce, addictions, job loss, and predictions. We strive to be a hand up, as handouts do not encourage growth. They come searching and beseeching, and we provide what they are reaching for, a small, safe space perfect for their situation. We give our word, we find that place. Some settle in and race towards success. Others get in their own way. Our words and wisdom cannot break through all barriers created by a lifetime of misnomers. They wear invisible headphones, replaying their own insurmountable mantras. We provide the seeds for success. We battle the habits that inhibit them. My greatest lesson: when someone believes they have the tools to build their own best life, they succeed. When they try to force their responsibilities onto others, they forsake and smother their own best life. Thank you all for tonight.
Thank you so much,
I forgot to
Thasia.
mention oops, for saying.
Reading next will be Matt Borczon. Praise has got an extensive list of recent publications,
Yes,
and
it does.
also through Alien Buddha Press, which you'll hear a lot
Yes,
tonight
tonight,
because that's what's going on. A lot of people are getting their stuff published in print there from Erie. So it's great.
I'm sorry? You have to submit to Red Fox, which I can give you that information. Yes, you should. Matt told me you should, and I
You
did.
guys will actually get to hear the founder of the Alien Buddha Press read for you tonight too, so that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Hey, there are books for sale on the table. I have a couple of mine with me. I know Luke has some books, Thasia has some books. Best way to support a poet is buy their book. So,
Yep.
I read a lot about what my life was like and during my time in Afghanistan and my life since then. For you guys that don't know me, for you guys that do know, you already know that. So, let me just, I guess that's a good way to introduce myself anyways. It's just called Afghanistan 2010. Week 1, she was 4 or 5 and had stepped on an IED that removed both her legs below the knee. Her father sat at her bedside silent for 3 weeks straight. The day she was to be released to him, he refused to take her. She cannot marry, not work, not earn. She can do nothing for me. If I have to take her, I will drop her in the desert and ride away. So he left that day alone. She can do nothing but cry. She can do nothing but call his name. It's called Kisses Like a Stranger. The war is still inside my head, in my closet, in my lunchbox, my washing machine. It kisses me like a stranger on a train to hell. It walks me like a dog with a shock collar. It fools my ears but not my eyes, because I can see that no one is actually dying in my living room, my kitchen, my nightmares or memories. It's just that I can still hear them scream. I don't usually tell stories, but I'll try to tell them as I run into them. I came home and my life kind of felt like I was living in a bag full of snakes for a long time, and I didn't really realize it wasn't just me. And then after a while, I found out a commander that I was there with had the same experience, only hers had been worse. She'd actually lost a career and ended up an inpatient. So I wrote this for her when we reconnected. She actually wrote a really good book called Stand By for Broadcast, which is all about it if you want to know even more clearly how rough that particular time was. She did a great job. So I wrote this for Carrie. It's called I Should. I should have known there were more than just me, so I have to ask. How many drinks does it take to get the ghost out of your nightmares? How many bullets do you keep in your handgun? How many medications have you tried? How many people ask why you seem so different? And how many times do you say I'm sorry to the people who are still waiting for the rest of you to come home? It's from a book I did with a Canadian press. It's called Sleepless Nights and Ghost Soldiers. Let's see. Sure. It's called What We Never Talk About. Stubby cigars in 118-degree heat and a hooch just off the enlisted tent. We talked about life, workouts, sex in the Navy, anything other than the 12-hour shifts, soldiers and children, or detainees that were our whole lives at that time. But I sometimes wish we had talked about the weight of all we saw, the blood and dead civilians, the amputations and burn wounds, the dead and the better off dead we saved for reasons I still question every day. I wish I would have asked, what do you think home will be like after all of this? And now, years later, when we talk, no one ever says they don't sleep or admits to nightmares or voices or child ghosts, and no one says they hide their hands in restaurants afraid everyone can still see the blood. And I never ask what they say to all the people who call them a hero, thinking that it will help make all of this just disappear. Let's see. This is called Burn. The world turns blue through my windshield on this snowless morning. I drive past bare trees looking like Ohio wood-tip matches. And if today I can find the will, the flame, a little of what's left over after 50 years of the war I can't get past, with its nightmares and ghosts and painful memories, the PTSD, if there is any of the old me left somewhere inside my head, then I will light that match and laugh as I watch everything burn to the ground, because sometimes you need to scorch the field before anything new will grow. I'll wrap this up here in a sec. Oh, there we go. It's just called a king-size bed. Tonight our bed is a life raft where you pull me ashore sunburned and grateful. Yesterday was an airfield where ghosts offload casualties in my screaming nightmares. Last week our bed was a prayer rug where we meditated beside our sleeping children. Last month it was the epicenter of an earthquake made of love. Last year our bed was a coffin I tried to bury beside my father's. In 2010 it was an airport where you held me before I left for Afghanistan. And once it was a sunny meadow where we held hands and talked about family, and you slept against my skin, your leg over mine. And I think we thought it was just a bed to lie on, as we dreamed of the life we thought we'd have before life gave us all of this instead. Maybe one or two more out of these and then wrap this up. This one has a lot to do with the town I went to college in. It's not specifically about the war, but everything I write is kind of about the war. So this is called Rick. Rick was new to the family, had been with Jenny only a few months, so when the kids wanted to keep the litter of kittens born to their barn cat, he was happy to say yes. After the first one got sick, they begged him to take them all to the vet, but he told them to go play outside. They both heard the gunshots, and Kim told me later she never forgot the look on Rick's face that night as he sat there down in shots of whiskey, trying not to cry, the pistol still in his lap. Let's see. Let me just read one more and get out of the way here.
You're not in the way.
We'll go back to this one. Let's see. I think we'll read the title poem of that. This is from my book, The Smallest Coffins Are the Heaviest.
Yes.
By the third time a child died, I didn't think I cared anymore. She had lost an eye, a foot, and a hand to the helicopter fire that killed her parents. They said the father was too important a target to let get away. In the last 6 years, I have learned how untrue it was to think I didn't care. I learned that numb thaws like snow on bushes, and she returned. And nightmares and memories, and I can't drink enough or take enough medication to forget that sometimes the smallest coffin is the heaviest, especially when you have no idea how to put it down. Thanks.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hello.
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see you. It's really gonna be hard to follow that set, so thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
I like to go
I sure
first.
do.
I've got some new and some old. I don't know if it's gonna take 10 minutes, but I'll try. This is a little short piece. It's got no title. It's just something that was in my head. Dancing on a plane of landmines, glassy autopilot gaze, unable to stop. Profusion of euphoria, sweat, joy, anxiety, feeling so alive next to certain death in abundant variety and aspect, laughing all the while. Saving the hot tears for the silent side-eye maneuver. Better that way. Let none see. One nerve-wracking misstep ends the charade. If by luck the mines are avoided, a sudden collapse is still imminent. How long did we think we could do this? Here's another one, it's short. I don't know how you guys feel about your creation process, but I really don't like working on a PC. I'd rather be on notepad and pen, but that's just me.
Same here.
This one's called The PC Beckons. She who seeks the pen in the wee hours shall find none. The PC beckons. She who reels over the many significant differences between paper and screen will be left with lines rotating in her head. The PC beckons. She who sorts through and within utility drawers, book bags, vast amounts of postal waste and garbage bins in the beginning phases shall be blessed with no pen, pencil, crayon, nor marker. The PC beckons. She who seeks rhythmic release shall be stifled by objects and hovering energies, chaos and unending requests to divert her intentions. The PC beckons. She who finds a black ultrafine point Sharpie beneath inches of ads stacked upon the kitchen table and a tattered red scribble-filled 99 cent composition notepad shall begin again in cursive fashion. The PC is silent for once and too long. Okay, here's one again. This doesn't have a title, and I don't really know how to explain it, so I'll just throw it out there. I feel the breeze from South Carolina tonight in the darkened gray of Erie. I recall that striped coonhound in my dreams who pushed hard upon me and insisted on fornication. I shoved him off with power, thrice, thrice, thrice. Skilled in the arts as a sleeping assassin, though it's not my choosing, know that. Yet I heard the hymns in the choir in my youth, a year before the start of school. It came, I did not ask, and I absorbed it on the hilltop where I stood, transfixed, deep in the countryside. That same wind, those chills, that unnameable connection. What is happening?
Wow. Yeah. All because you read a poem. Wow.
Make it part of the performance.
Yeah.
That same wind, those chills, that unnameable connection. I was open to it, the good, the most high, the light, as they say. I was equally open to the bad, the bitter, the dark. But you, this is new to me, an unfamiliar line, web, strand, tentacle. I demand you tell me your purpose. Why do you pull me from my slumber? Why do you move me from my depths? You, a shadow, thick with intent, unsettling. I live with this meandering, lingering, omnipresent vibration. Tequila grants me the audacity to request you explain yourself, so say it. Communicate the reason for your presence. I am just I, with a family and babes to love and protect. I will fight if necessary, compromise if possible, but state your business either way. This is spiritual warfare, and you already know. I don't fear the darkness, and I have already cast you from my dream states, only to find you pulling me off my bed in the tangible realm. That is cowardice, a weak approach. For all those growls and low tones, all the mind fuckery of the peripheral vision, I must admit I had higher expectations than this. I insist you explicate your position, purpose. I will only acknowledge your existence for so long before I pretend this never happened and bend my logic to hide your actions. State your business or move on to the next. I don't know what that sounds like. It's just like a shadow that bothers me in my house. That's just cool what it's about. Not sure how I came across though. And then I've got this one, and this is called Phylum. It's an older piece, but I just felt like reading it today. No personal power does she possess. Picks only on the dead or deeply wounded. Feasts on those who couldn't carry on. Her preferred carry on. Vulture. When her intentions are questioned, she becomes quite venomous, hisses and spits obsolete facts and theories which mean nothing, zero relevance. It's the sound of the dogmatic that scares them away. Rattlesnake. Devours any he who dares approach, her webs municipal or legal. A prenup is feasible. His head is gone once the yoke is broken. Black Widow. Survives on little to nothing for extended periods of time. Impressive stench. Find her where there is least light, crumbs and grease, in the trenches, crowded, looking to copulate. Cucaracha. She is not familiar with compassion and operates from the reptilian. Creature status for her neocortex is not functional. In essence, it is primordial satisfaction, opportunist in motion, savage. I sat across from her, unaware of her dangerous attributes, until she sung a cry to war. I had to heed the call. I dulled the gleam of harm within her eyes. Wolverine. Woo! And I have one left, and this one's called St. Vincent. It's a little bit longer, but not much.
Veronica Hopkins.
General anesthesia is a cocktail of chemical compounds created to send you deep into the unconscious state where you will feel nothing of the physical realm. Upon awakening, time stretches like a band of rubber, and when it snaps back, the pain surfaces, moment by moment, stinging crescendos, leaving you unable to stand at your helm. Morphine flows through a plastic translucent tube and into the intravenous line that sits steady, taped on the top of your hand. Movement is inhibited so greatly that you pay a pretty penny just to take a stroll down the hall to anywhere, a vending machine, or perhaps a lone window no one seems to notice the need for. You examine the face of each nurse, each physician, and their assistants for traces of kindness, and after a prolonged time, figure the percentages of who has been naughty or nice and tally the probability of how enjoyable your next human contact will be. Longing for sunshine and fresh air, the smell of wild roses and lamb's ear, you become acutely aware of the sanitized scent a hospital room provides. A ride in any vehicle, some musical accompaniment, a walk through the forest, a trip to any department store, a conversation with someone you love, a stroll down the beach with the wind pushing and pleading with you to live more and worry less. You cannot have such experiences. After discharge, the colors are much more vivid. The food a flavor you've never enjoyed so much. The many faces, some strange, others familiar, are a welcome departure from the clinical expressions you became accustomed to during your stay in the limbo. General anesthesia is a cocktail of chemical compounds created to send you deep into the unconscious state. Upon awakening, you will find there is much you have forgotten and no amount of mental jostling can produce a memory. Slight amnesia of cause and function collide with the life you have already carved out for yourself. Questions abound. You inquire, why am I here? How did I survive? Is God angry with me? Do I have the right to exist amidst all this beauty and treachery? How are my children? How is my family? What have I not done that I simply must? What should I steer clear of? How much longer do I have? What is my true purpose? Rod Serling is watching from somewhere, some parallel dimension, smiling at your befuddlement, laughing at your dazed countenance. This is not a dream, and your dreams are even more bizarre now that you have waltzed with death. The Twilight Zone indeed. the impermanence of it all, for each soul on earth, slight fractions of life you cannot fully feel or appreciate until someone tells you, or a blade indicates, that it might be too late to be alive. Thank you.
I didn't plan this portion of the reading, but my drive down here was rather eventful, so I'm going to open with, I do a lot of haiku that includes the use of the term alien Buddha. That's kind of how the name of the press came about. So I'm going to open with Alien Buddha gets a traffic citation from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But I do have to add, I want to thank Officer Tyler for his leniency. He busted me for 50 and a 45 instead of the 62 that I was actually doing. So, so like I said, I thought it was going to be rather fitting to do some Alien Buddha haiku. So I got kind of a, from our first anthology, which is for sale, by the way, up at the table. I'm going to do a relatively long series of short Alien Buddha haikus by myself, and then I'm going to do the same thing from another author, which is pretty fitting because he's from Erie, and I want to take this opportunity when he does see the video to give him a hard time for not being here. Ron, you're a grouchy hermit and need to get out more often. Alien Buddha replaces politicians with vending machines and rhesus monkeys. Alien Buddha sucks the blood from young chupacabras. Alien Buddha fights and fucks through ice picks in his balls, brains, and guts while he studies the circadian rhythm of his nemesis. Alien Buddha jams his cock in Andy Warhol's eardrum. Alien Buddha fingers his soft skull, poppy seeds, and fractal images, dips his balls in baked beans. Alien Buddha spits fire over Lake Erie and into the infinite peyote sun. Alien Buddha flushes the world. Now this is the series of Alien Buddha haikus from Ron here in Erie, and he actually dedicated it to me, and he actually mentions buffalo, so it's rather fitting. Alien Buddha, piss inside, hollow moon drips gray talcum mud. Alien Buddha rips coat made of cats off hallucination bells. Alien Buddha extraterrestrial match flames us, spines on fire. Alien Buddha, America's history is always murder. Alien Buddha, full of Hiroshima smashed potato dust. Alien Buddha, Nagasaki's rivers